Bloodborne's pretty fun. A lot of other people seem to think so too. It's so fun that dozens of fans have sunk months and years into developing playable Bloodborne fan games on the PlayStation Dreams platform. I've covered that on my channel before, but Dreams is a game creation platform native to the PlayStation 4. It has a really powerful set of game creation tools, and its browsable storefront allows anyone with a copy of Dreams to play thousands of community-created games all for free. It also tends to be pretty fast and loose with copyright, so you see a ton of unbridled creativity on Dreams that would not necessarily survive in the wild. You can search the Dreamiverse by game name or tag, so I, an average Bloodborne enjoyer, decided to see what the world has been cooking up on Dreams under the Bloodborne tag. I rustled up a chunk of the world's okayest Bloodborne fan projects to showcase for y'all right now. Now, not all of these are technically games. A portion of them are playable dioramas with little gamification aspects, but some creators are more into modeling than game design, and I didn't want to skip over their work, which is sometimes very impressive. Keep in mind, even the jankiest of these creations took many hours of effort from the creator on a niche platform with zero extrinsic rewards, so I'm going to keep the commentary positive and the criticisms constructive. Without further preamble, here are 15 Bloodborne fan games from PlayStation Dreams. First up is Bloodborne Kart. I laughed my ass off at this one. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's just a race on a track around central Yharnam in a horse-drawn carriage, which looks perfectly silly drifting around turns and catching air. The steering is pretty tight, so there was no reason not to have the gas floored the whole time. Watching the horses drift around turns was so dumb funny, it made my life. Bloodborne Kart takes clear inspiration from popular kart racer games like Nicktoons Racing and Toy Story Racer, but it's missing a lot of what makes those games click. There are no items, no multiplayer, and while I didn't find any shortcuts, I did find one ramp where buffeting off the side causes you to launch ahead with a little boost. It's got 4 different sky colors, mirroring the night phases from Bloodborne, but those only affect the aesthetic and the lighting. I ran with Blood Moon first, then played with Purple Sky, which was a lot harder to see, so I'm glad I learned the track a bit first during Blood Moon. For my second race, I did enable bots, which added 2 NPC buggies to the race. These things were rude. I passed both of them pretty early on, then lost track of them for a while until I lapped one heading the wrong way straight at me like your little brother griefing on Gran Turismo. I couldn't even get around him for a while. He had the gas floored, so even reversing, I had a hard time disengaging our wagons, but I would not have it any other way. There's some visual weirdness with the lap timer in the corner, and your kart does get a bit of unnatural slowdown every time it lands from air, which felt kind of bad on this long staircase with multiple landings. But overall, the polish on Bloodborne Kart was pretty up there. Excellent use of the Bloodborne theming, looks great, controls pretty well, and such a hilarious concept I would not have expected. Next is Lady Maria Bossfight Demo. We've got a working menu with a gamma slider. That's a promising start. It starts you off in her Astral Clock Tower arena pre-combat, where I can safely test out the controls. They give us a Kirk Hammer, which was certainly a choice. I'm impressed they actually bothered to program in the combos for both forms, since tricking the weapon works too. And listen, it may be obvious to you that tricking your weapon should function in a Bloodborne fan game, of course, but these are solo dev projects, many of which are half complete and long abandoned, so I am going to express shock and awe when basic features are implemented in a Dreams game. Walk up to Maria and hit X to begin the cutscene. Animating this all out in Dreams was unnecessary, but really cool that they put the time in. Sadly, there was no audio for this scene. They should have spent more time developing the combat instead of recreating this cutscene one-to-one, because the fight is bullshit. Maria kept leading with a charge, doing 70% of my health and following up relentlessly, sometimes comboing me to death with no input window. If you run away to heal, she just charges in again. It took several deaths before I even managed to scrape her. Gunshots exist, but parrying doesn't seem to. Bullets just blink her for 10 hit points. Then, after some more deaths, I realized her hit point bar wasn't resetting when I die. Guess I'm grinding this out. While I repeatedly run into a brick wall, would you consider repeatedly running into the like button and or comments? We recently hit 20k here, and I am very grateful for all of you who watch and engage with my silly little videos. Thank you for your support. The sword attack hits for 50 and the hammer hits for 100. Sword strong attack hits for 100, hammer strong attack hits for 150. But everything besides basic sword attacks were way too hard to land. Fighting her honestly is just not a thing here. I tried dodging, parrying, even emptying my clip to sneak in free gun damage, but she's relentless about punishing with a charge if you're not up close to her, so the gun wasn't great. The strat I landed on was rushing her and spamming R1s until she just decides it's time for me to die. On a good run, I would chunk off 300 damage. It took like 20 deaths to grind her down. She did actually have a phase 2 with blood attacks, which was slightly easier to grind through since this replaced her charge attack with a blood jet, which was easier to recover from. Once I got her to about 30% where phase 3 would have started, a message popped up thanking me for playing. Then you know for science that I had to keep going and grind her down to 0, but it turns out she resists death, so that was a waste of time and we're done here. I checked the creator's channel and it looks like the last update was 2 years ago, so we're probably not due for more, but this was a super impressive start. Maria's moveset felt complete, and the opening cutscene was very faithful. The game needed a little more player agency to be fun, though. Adding parries would help. Dodging and stamina should be a little more generous, and we definitely need some more health or faster recovery to avoid getting locked to death in the first few seconds. But overall, this is very cool, just needed some balancing. This one's just called Bloodborne, and it's you're a chibi Donald Trump in a little section of Yharnam. All your buttons have been transformed into a Trump quote soundboard, which is horrifying, and there's no gameplay at all to this.
We need to build a wall.
Over here, there's a closed gate. Look on down from the bridge, and there's a second chibi Donald who trails you like a Pikmin once you collect him. Then at the end of the path is a big white fog gate that leads nowhere. I did some jumping off the map to see if anything cool lives out of bounds, but Donald's silly little tap shoes skidded off to the kill plane, and when I respawned, it blasted all of his quotes at once. Yeah, not to get too political, but this one sucks. If you liked Bloodborne, you're gonna love Bloodborne 2. I put this one here because it's the same little stretch of Yharnam that we just saw with Donald, but this time the menu and controls are in Portuguese. This one is gamified ever so slightly. The creator did some remixing of the original scene and did the start of turning it into an actual game. You play as a Dark Souls 2 Haid Knight with surprisingly functional blocks and attacks, and a UI with health bar, stamina bar, and Estus. There's one zombie enemy in place of the second chibi Donald, which we're gonna call James Franco, cause cutting off his hand gives 127 souls. They opened this gate and added like 10 yards of pathway before it ends in nothingness, which is probably where they were going to build out their level. It's super incomplete, but this creator at least tried to expand on the scene. It just wanted a little more time in the oven before going public. Okay, let's wash our mouths with something a little more effort went into. This is our first diorama, The Hunter's Dream, Bloodborne. This is a gorgeous recreation of Hunter's Dream. There's music playing that's pretty good creepy remix of the Bloodborne music. No doll, and the chapel door is locked, but the different messenger shops were interactable, and the messengers gift you a chrome bubble. There are 2 more bubbles lootable around the area. It's like they wanted to give you just the slightest bit of collection to let you collect bubbles. It's like if gamification was a LaCroix flavor, it would taste like this. And honestly, it worked on me. I am a sucker for completion. They included the backyard with the tree stump messengers, which apparently a lot of players don't know about, so that was nice to see. Hit the Yharnam headstone to wake up and end the experience, which was a nice in-game way to exit instead of forcing me to exit through the pause menu. This one's very pretty. It's nice work. Welcome to Everton's description is simply Souls-like town intro, but this hidden gem is a lot more than that. Let's get into it. The modeling is tight, it makes good use of lights to guide your way. This one's in first person, which usually works better in Dreams since the popular third-person player control schemes are often floaty and loose, and that saved them having to develop a character model as well, which can easily cheapen your game if it doesn't look perfect. This one needed a footstep sound though, it was weird without one. You have sword swings to attack, plus infinite use weak heal over time and infinite use combustion skills, which have moderate cooldowns and a stamina cost. What immediately stands out in this one are how lovingly crafted the levels are. Trash bags, tipped bottles, abandoned prams, and buggies tell the tale of a city in trouble. It's a small game, but paths twist, and there are some branches, which is altogether rare on the platform. The combat is the weak point of Everton. I want to enjoy the first-person combat, and I think the skills costing stamina is an interesting system, but stamina is hyper-limiting and enemies are a little too healthy, so combat ends up being extended circle strafing while you wait for stamina to come back. The enemy models feel like placeholders too. Their beeline AI and marionette movement is kinda goofy. I had to find and kill 3 of these enemies to assemble the key to the clinic, which did need some light exploration, so that was fun. Inside the clinic, there's a cutscene of the chandelier lighting itself. This game is just full of so many loving touches. It's well detailed in here too, with furniture, corpses, and those vaping basins that are common in Chalice dungeons. This level introduced the other enemy type, spiders, who were chiller to fight than hollows. They just lob poison balls in bursts from a static position, more like a turret than an enemy. Tommy Wiseau, that is not a joke, meets us at the bottom, speaking Locust Preacher dialogue from Dark Souls 3 and telling us to touch a painting. That warps us to a surreal grassland area with a one-way door we're on the wrong side of, and an NPC with a quest to kill a priest of Ludon. I guess that's a different city than Everton? Then they had me walk the plank and take a leap of faith. For how much this game looks like Bloodborne, it really seems to wish it was Dark Souls 3. I landed in this wolf dragon cave with a cutscene where they just played some Lady Maria dialogue at me, then it's back to a chapel interior where I find a boss who's just a mega version of the Ragdoll Hollows. He drops a key, which I can use to open a locked gate and end the experience. The one thing I would want to say to this creator is, I don't think they gave themselves enough credit. Welcome to Everton has a really good skeleton. It's got fantastic environment design, interesting if clunky combat that just wants some balancing, and it even has quests and interconnectivity. But that's all undercut by using Tommy Wiseau and random audio clips from Dark Souls 3. Cleaning up some of the goofiness could make this a really great, if short, game. Okay, buckle up. Glory Arsenal is one of the fullest experiences in the bunch, and it's big. On launch, you get a very Dark Souls cutscene about the 4 main immortal enemies in this universe. Then, with a colorful anime flourish, we're dumped on a full, working, great-looking menu. I'm so bought in, let's go! I launched the tutorial first and got an extremely hype loading screen with my anime girl character doing gun kata to EDM. Shit, yes. Immediately, this controls very good for a Dreams game. We take good movement for granted, but in Dreams, it's clunky more often than not. I can't overstate how refreshing the responsive controls are here, which is to say, they feel like a regular non-Dreams video game. The creator put a lot of work into this. You got attack combos, blocking, which means whipping a riot shield out of thin air, and there's a parry too. You also have not 1, but 3 guns that all beat ass, but honestly felt superfluous from a game design perspective. Melee can solve every situation, and guns are just for burning down bosses you don't feel like getting good at. Start the proper game, and we are on a spaceship called the Zenus. This game has this techno-anime setting that I don't have a lot of experience in, but Xenosaga is one comparison that comes to mind. There's a wardrobe letting us change between 3 outfits, which all look really good. Also, y'all, this game is voice acted, and it's kinda good.
I was waiting for you. It took quite some time for you to show up.
This biker polar bear from Mars sets up our quests, directing us to go kill our first boss. There's also a vendor who sells us ammo, ick, and permanent blood vial capacity upgrades, not ick. Obviously, that's all we're saving for. There's a conspicuous display case with Bloodborne-looking gear in it, too. Huh. Well, let's head out. The first planet is the Wasteland. I'm getting Code Vein vibes now with the anime combined with the environment. Glory Arsenal's combat is pretty solid. Enemy attacks are telegraphed and intentional, and there's a good mix of melee enemies and rangers. I hit some buttons to open gates and turn on elevator power, and we're ready for the boss, Dr. Linnes. This fight was excellent. The arena has cool details, he has voice lines but not too frequent, and design-wise he's a good reason to get used to parrying. My only complaint is a huge-ass tutorial showed up during the fight, ruining half the screen, but I didn't want to close it because I wanted to read the damn thing. The UX designer in me was screaming. After the fight, warp back to our ship, which is on alert because we're headed through an asteroid field. And it turns out I'm the pilot too. There's a little asteroids shoot 'em up minigame you have to do. This caught me so off guard, because on the one hand, why? But on the other hand, hell yeah, put little arcade games in your Souls-like, sure. The second planet, Molten Ruins, sounds like it's going to be a lava level, but this one's classy and paved stone, more like Volcano Manor than Molten Core. There are a few levers to pull here, but watch out for traps. One of them dropped a whole horde of sleep paralysis demons on me, who are individually no problem, but this crowd got me to actually employ my shotgun to good use. Through the main gate is a mini-boss, the Abnormal Imp, who has a big wall shield that takes some strategy to learn how to bait him out of. Later, take those 2 fights and put them together, but this time we have a mysterious Ostrava type helping us out. He has some dialogue after we win.
I could have taken care of them myself. Still, it's nice to have some company from time to time.
There's a hidden witch Yuria type in a cell here who wants us to obtain some legendary relics. I'm pretty sure her quest is how we get the good ending, but I wasn't able to return to her later. I think you have to activate and use this teleporter in her cell to be able to return through it later. Let me know if you play this game and get the good ending. The level boss is just ahead, Lord Herkiora, who likes to do melee and dash attacks. Parrying seems really good here, but I'm able to skate through with my own R2s to close distance and R1 spam for DPS. Act 3 is pretty short. Collect 2 or 3 offerings to open a door to reach the boss fight, and the whole area is open but not too open. There's a secret flower power buff near the entrance that lets you skate around the zone, which was pretty fun. Then the boss here is a Freed/Priscilla/Estrella type, some noble guardian woman who regrets that you forced her to fight you. This fight was cool as hell, with celestial chorus music playing as we fight in the lavender milk at the edge of space. Then by this point, I realized the loading screen can actually be a sort of rhythm game if you like to stim, because changing the tip makes a sort of chirp noise that's really fun to time with the music beat. Then Act 4 finally earns the Bloodborne tag for this game. This level is super gothic with the buggies and the gray sky. Act 4 is long enough to be a full game in its own right, so I'll try to go kind of fast. Our overall goal is we're looking for the Yeti King, but we came here first as a sub-quest to recruit some help. First up is a long graveyard with a few skeleton saint mini-bosses. Then off to the side, I found one of the relics needed for that woman's quest, then I made it to a town called Latherin. Oh, cool, treasure. Damn. There's a crestfallen duck man here, probably a reference to this creator's other game called Duck Souls. I reached a dark temple with a priestess that we can pray to for, quote, divine aid in a battle to come. This was like halfway between a covenant and summoning Gale against Freed. Then we've got to check these portals to advance. The first one I tried opened to an empty hell dimension with a titanic chained beast. This game is so surreal and creepy when it wants to be. The next portal took me to a garden to meet a friendly bear man who gives a sub-quest to fight a birdman boss where that divine aid materialized in the form of a holy flash sword ability. The third portal was an empty Demon Souls final area / Dark Souls 3 Gale arena, which seemed to extend on forever. There may be secrets here, I just didn't want to get lost. Then the final portal sent me to the Sky Arena for a Nameless King-inspired fight, complete with 2 phases. This was impressive as hell, and it took a few tries to get right. With that dragon slain, it's back to the garden to meet Furry Wolf Sekiro. That's the help we're going to want against the Yeti King, but first, he has a sub-quest for us to help him with an Ornstein and Smo type fight. He also wigs out if you walk slow. Saw a werewolf with the Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. Now that we have the wolf's support, we can take on the King of Yetis. This area kind of blows. There's a long corridor of enemies before a mini-boss, and they follow you in and ruin that fight if you don't full clear them. So after meticulously clearing the trash mobs, and staying alive through the mini-boss Yeti, Furry Sekiro joins up to help us fight King Amath. I mostly let Sekiro tank for me while I let loose with my guns because by now I had all the blood vial upgrades I could buy and I was okay just blowing my cash on ammo refills. Back on the ship, something's up. Biker Polar Bear from Mars is gone and the cabinet of Bloodborne equipment is now empty. It's time for the final boss that we saw coming from miles away. This fight takes heavy inspiration from Gehrman down to the arena and moveset. I did a lot of cheesing him with my guns though. Once you wear Grizz down, there's actually a choice of endings, but I was only allowed to choose to execute him since I never figured out how to return the relics to that lady, or I may have missed one. And that was Glory Arsenal. From the amount of time I dedicated to this one, it's clear that I had a great time. Is it Bloodborne? Like, vaguely. It's more of a Devil May Cry Dark Souls 3 hybrid, but wow, the production value is through the roof. The level of effort on the writing, voice acting, world design, and controls is unmatched on the Dreams platform, and there's so much more to this game that I didn't get the chance to show here. You should absolutely check this one out for yourself. Let's crash off that high with some trash I supply. Bloodborne Remake is stinking hot garbage and a complete bait and switch. It's some non-interactive anime scene with somebody yelling cringe into the microphone. There's a lot of this gacha meme game trash on Dreams, but you see it a lot more in like the FNAF tags. Somehow this one snuck into Bloodborne. I'm just including it as an accurate depiction of the Dreams ecosystem in case the last game made things seem too professional. Okay, we've got the Cosmic Eye. This one is just a diorama. It's literally just the Cosmic Eye Watcher badge on a lanyard. It's beautifully detailed, impressive graphics work for Dreams. The background is a cozy church with a chandelier that I would want to hang out in. That's all. This next one is one of the more liberal uses of the Bloodborne tag, but I don't mean to demean this game, which is perfectly enjoyable. It's called Dark Fairy. We're playing as basically Maleficent. We start in a chill forest clearing to check out the moveset, then move on to a castle on our quest to save an undisclosed princess. But we quickly get distracted and the game turns into just finding 16 green sigils. Dark Fairy ends up playing a lot more as a platformer than a Souls-like, and some of the platforming is actually clever. There are traps, hidden passages, and trick jumps you have to make. There is a combat system with 2 forms of attack, but that's all just to fight this one green troll enemy who doesn't even need killing since it doesn't drop a sigil. Should I feel bad about this? Dark Fairy is really not Bloodborne, and I don't think it should have been tagged as such, but the platforming was solid, and I had a fun time hunting for all 16 sigils. This one's good. Alright, we've got Shrekborne demo. This one says it's like Dark Souls, but it's Shrek, but it's Bloodborne. This one, believe it or not, breaks my heart based on how short it is, because it's got the most accurate Souls UI and the fullest inventory and stat screens of any game on the platform. There are so many of these Dreams games that put good work into their logical systems and controls, then just give you half an acre of level to play on since they burn out and can't be bothered to design levels. You've got a couple of hollows you can fight and they respawn, but that's pretty much the whole game. This game wanted like a teammate, so somebody could create levels while the OP developed the combat. It's cheapened by the Shrek player character and it's deplorably short, but this one is actually pointed in the right direction. Okay, we've got Lonely Pass. This diorama is exactly what it says on the tin, a little lonesome pass through the lava mountains. Spiderwebs flutter in the breeze and a bit of piano music plays. It's extremely short, ending after you cross this bridge and climb up a few stairs, but I dragged it out by oohing and awing at the level a little bit. This creator should have teamed up with Shrekborne guy to create levels. Alright, I had to include Duck Souls in this video since it's by Lampazu, the same guy behind Glory Arsenal. This one is much more of a Souls game though. We've got an opening cutscene, then our duck skeleton Valdir sets off into the world to reap souls. This one's got soul acquisition and level ups, which is another basic system that I have to praise for just being altogether rare on the platform. You don't get to choose your stats a new level though. Each level 1 through 10 just unlocks a preset active ability or a perk. The levels here are ultra linear, but they're at least lined with good enemy placements. There will be 2 small enemies, then 1 big enemy, then big enemy plus archer to test your awareness and prioritization. Oh, and you can always press D-pad down to strike a JoJo pose. While Bloodborne and Dark Souls are clearly inspirations here, Duck Souls is a little more of an action game. There's no stamina bar, so you can run around comboing enemies, and healing is unlimited based on a cooldown. Combat is very hack and slashy, and it's just slightly too awkward to be great. You can't attack towards the camera, and the character does a little too much movement with a little too small damage boxes that combat feels more like doing flybys than squaring off to duel an enemy. Enemy diversity is pretty great, but I found R1 combos are all you need against the majority of enemies in the game. Some elite foes later encourage blocking or dodging, but it ties back to the awkward movement why I didn't enjoy using those. There's a type of HP rally system too that reduces the downsides of just mashing attack. Hitting level 5 made that even more possible when you get a big power spike from unlocking Death Arm, which is basically just R2. It combos up to 5, but more importantly, your character doesn't move while using it, so it's better for burning down elites. The first boss is an ogre named Eothum, and he was reasonably well made. He's got melee combos to dodge and AoE bursts that you've got to outrange. Then a really awkward stilted climb out of his arena because they made the slope too steep. This one should have been caught in testing, I don't know. The second and final level, like in Glory Arsenal, took on a black gothic theme under a full moon. Through some caves is the single swarm encounter in the game, but fortunately I was able to pull off a few of them at a time to fight. This level was very short though, and we're actually up to the final boss already. At the soul extender just before the fight, I unlocked the final level, which granted a supersonic-like ability that drains down your blood meter while granting extra attack. I wanted to get some mileage out of this ability, so instead of fighting the boss normally, I just ran from him until I could recharge this essence ability again and got him done in 1 try. Grab his flaming sword in a short cutscene, and that is Duck Souls complete. Real quick, I tried their Duck Legend mode, which turned out to be an arena fight against like 2 of every enemy in the game at the same time. This might have been more fun if they came in waves, but I don't know. What can I say about Duck Souls? It's a complete, functional game with character progression and balanced combat. With good enemy placement and diversity, this is one of the closest games we've seen to an actual Souls-like on the platform so far. With Media Molecule ending support for Dreams, more on that later, it looks like the creator, Lampazu, has ended their creation on the platform, but the good news is it looks like that they've moved on to PC game dev, and I am very happy to see that. I will leave a link in the description to their itch.io page. Dark Sun Dimensions, Shelved, is extremely cute. The creator made it for their daughter, which I think is really sweet. You play as a cat girl wielding a giant scythe, and losing isn't dying, it's running away. This game gets props for choosing and committing to an art style. It's all red, white, and black. It's very American McGee's Alice. It does have those typical loose third-person Dreams controls though. You have the turn radius of a Corolla, and it's pretty hard to attack enemies when combined with the floaty low friction. There is a very cute wolf companion named Luna marked as in development. Who's a good girl? Enemies in DSD are cute and a little scary with these empty masks and a bit of mechanical horror to them. This game is pretty small since it's just the tutorial area leading up to a single boss, but I think its art direction carries it pretty far. Younger player-oriented Souls-likes are not really something you see, and I had a great time seeing what that might look like. The final boss was actually a reasonable challenge, and it felt pretty Soulsy, with big, well-telegraphed attacks that punished you for being at different distances. I was fighting the controls as much as the boss though, and the balancing felt a little off with my special attacks doing as much damage as basic swings. After defeating it and winning once, I went back to play one more time using the katana weapon, but its dash move kept blinking me out of the map, so that needed some work. Overall, this is a fun, tiny game, and I'm grateful they included a boss, which makes it feel complete, even if short and rough. The last comments on it were 4 years ago, though, so sadly, I think this is all we get for Dark Sun Dimensions. We've had some high highs and some low lows. Let me take us back to something simple and low-key for our final game today. Bloodborne-inspired Scene is actually the prototype, the ancestor of that Trump game and the Portuguese Hate Night one. I'm including this partially for completeness and partially to demonstrate how the Dreams community works, at least in theory. Creators will make an asset like this and publish it so that other creators can remix it and add to it. That's what makes this platform magical. Media Molecule, the studio behind Dreams, has done a really good job supporting Dreams since launch. They published their own high-quality Dreams games, held contests, curated works of others, and have generally done a good job being there for the users. Unfortunately, as of fall 2023, they ended live support for the game, meaning no more features and no PS5 update. The servers are still up for now, and anyone can still create new games and play them, but to be slightly hyperbolic, you can now consider it a dying platform since creators are dropping off, unwilling to invest hundreds of hours developing for an unsupported walled garden platform. With what feels like no future, the player base will steadily drop until eventually it will be justifiable to shut down the servers, and no one knows how soon that will come. To that end, I think it's really important to get some of these games archived before they're lost forever. I had an excellent time playing through these, and you should too if you own a copy of Dreams. Are they like proper games? No, most of them aren't, but a couple of them really are fantastic, and it would be a shame for these to go away with not enough people appreciating them first. Thank you very much to my patrons. Your support puts life juice directly in my veins and enables me to make content like this. And thank you, whoever you are, for watching this video. There is more where this came from, so if people like it, we might get another edition soon. Everybody stay healthy. I'll see you next time.